Hey, good evening. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Gadi Schwartz coming to you from Los Angeles. And here's some of the stories we're watching tonight. A nuclear power plant in Minnesota spills nearly 500,000 gallons of radioactive water. And it turns out the leak was first discovered last November, but state officials didn't tell the public until, get this, yesterday. We're going to have a live report. And a day after the Biden administration threatened a TikTok ban, news that the Justice Department is now looking into whether the Chinese-owned company spied on American journalists. Plus, the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin over charges of war crimes in Ukraine. So what happens now?
The judges issued arrest warrants. Their execution depends on international cooperation.
Then, did COVID come from a lab or did it spill over from a wild animal? Some scientists are now saying they found the strongest evidence yet that it might be from raccoon dogs. And we know that artificial intelligence can write like a human, but tonight in the future of everything, we're going to talk to those who are using it on Tinder to pick up dates. Tonight in Minnesota, some communities have been caught by surprise by a massive radioactive leak from a nuclear plant that they are just now hearing about, even though it was first detected months ago. We are talking 400,000 gallons of contaminated water, and it happened at this plant because of a broken pipe. Now, that leak was found in November of last year, but the public is only finding out about it now. The nuclear plant is owned by the company called Xcel Energy, and both the company and the state are working to try to clean up the contaminated water. The water is said to contain radioactive tritium, which is a form of hydrogen and can occur in water naturally at extremely small amounts. But per EPA regulations, 20,000 units of tritium can be in drinking water per liter. But the water right now at the plant is in the millions. And here's a look at the location of this plant. It's very important. It is in Monticello, Minnesota, right there along the Mississippi River. Xcel and the state say they are actively working to contain this leak to that plant property, while state officials say the leak did not contaminate the Mississippi River or drinking water sources and people are safe. But we want to bring in NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa to break it all down for us. Maggie, bring us up to speed here. The fact that this leak happened in November of last year and people are just finding out about it right now seems pretty alarming. What do we know about the nature of this leak?
Yeah, it's so jarring for people in that area, Gadi, as you know. So we'll just start with kind of when specifically, since that's a huge part of this headline. This was discovered, Xcel says, on November 22nd. So think back, that's a couple days before Thanksgiving. And the company says it immediately took what they called swift action to contain this contaminated water to the plant site, which again is in Monticello, Minnesota. That's just northwest, about 40 minutes northwest of Minneapolis. They also say they told the state immediately that day, the state of Minnesota confirming that they got notification. They say in late November, and both the state and the company, all the agencies involved say at this point, there is no evidence to show that drinking water in that area has been contaminated. But, Gadi, I got to be real with you. Also, no one is saying why the public wasn't notified as soon as this was discovered, which, again, as you said, is a key question because this is so alarming for people to hear about now. Gadi.
And Maggie, we know that the leak has been stopped, or that's what they're saying, and authorities are telling people not to worry because there is no danger. But the cleanup is still happening, right? How contaminated are we talking? We were just showing that video from the helicopter there. You can see that the plant is very big. The town of Monticello seems to be a little ways off, but the plant seems to be right there on the river.
Right, right. Well, basically what they've told us is that at least to a layman, this seems like a painstakingly slow process. Again, we talked about 400,000 gallons of this severely contaminated water. Xcel says it has been, I want to get their quote right, pumping, storing, treating, and reusing the contaminated water while monitoring nearby wells to make sure this isn't leaking into drinking water. But they point this out, and this is important. They say recovering all of this tritium that leaked, and again, 400,000 plus gallons of water, recovering all of that will take about the next year. Gadi.
Wow. And one more question. The plant, I know, is pretty old. It was built in the 1970s, 1971. Is that a concern here?
You know, it's something that's been mentioned. The company has yet to say whether it's a concern. The state has yet to nail that down as well. But basically what it means, if nothing else, is that Xcel Energy has spent reportedly tens of millions of dollars updating the infrastructure of this plant, updating its testing systems, including installing what they called a new groundwater monitoring program, an advanced program in 2007 that they say was part of an updated requirement at the time. Again, whether that has anything to do really concretely with this broken pipe, meaning whether the age of the plant and all the updates that have been needed over time, whether that has anything to do with or caused this leak, that question also at this point yet to be answered. Gadi, but we'll stay on it.
Wow. And just to recap, a radioactive cleanup that could take a year. Maggie, thanks so much.
Sure.
We've known that TikTok has been facing a lot of heat and has been pretty close to being banned in the United States. But today we are learning that the Department of Justice is investigating the app over spying allegations. And some of that probe may have to do with claims that employees at TikTok spied on journalists, something that Forbes first reported on in December, saying TikTok spied on some of their reporters, trying to find the sources of some leaks. And employees at TikTok did it by gaining access to personal data from the TikTok accounts of those reporters. Now, this is all happening as the Biden administration pressures TikTok's parent company ByteDance to either sell or to face a ban in the United States because of the company's close ties to the Chinese government. Joining us now is NBC News senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson. Hallie, on Capitol Hill today, lawmakers were not mincing words. The House Speaker told our producer Frank Thorpe TikTok was a national security risk. What do we know about these spying allegations?
Totally, Gadi. I mean, lawmakers have been saying that for a long time on both sides of the aisle now, that they are concerned about TikTok. What is new today is a law enforcement official telling NBC News about this DOJ and FBI investigation into TikTok's parent company, the Chinese company ByteDance that you laid out. It all centers around this allegation of spying on Americans, specifically on U.S. journalists, including reporters from Forbes. These are like tech reporters who have covered TikTok. Our team for NBC Nightly News actually spoke with one of those reporters. I want to play for you what she had to say about all this. Listen.
The companies have acknowledged that they were tracking my location in order to try to figure out who was talking to me. It's not unique. Domestic companies have done this. And so the fact that my user data was pulled for the purpose of trying to identify leaks is a bad move on the company's part.
So that was Emily Baker White talking about this whole thing. ByteDance is responding to NBC News. They say that they have conducted and are conducting this internal investigation. They say we've strongly condemned the actions of the individuals found to have been involved, and they are no longer employed at ByteDance. You see it here, them saying our internal investigation is still ongoing. They're also going to cooperate, they say, with any official investigations that have been brought to them. Gadi, it is interesting, right? I mean, like, questions about TikTok. Now you have this DOJ investigation, right? Is the Biden administration has taken kind of a tougher line on the company and on the parent company, too.
And all this comes on the heels of the CEO going to testify on Capitol Hill to Congress. How do you think that's going to go down?
Yeah, it comes on like the reverse heels, right? Because that's happening in just a few days from now, a Thursday on Capitol Hill. And man, Gadi, that is going to be a big deal because of so many questions about privacy, about the potential for propaganda on TikTok. And TikTok's kind of getting on offense around this. They're sending a bunch of creators right here to Washington next week and I want to read this quote in the words of TikTok. Because they say lawmakers should hear firsthand from people whose lives would be directly affected by their decisions. Here's why this is so interesting to me, Gadi, because there's this question. There is a lot of criticism of TikTok from Capitol Hill. There's not really a very natural pro-TikTok constituency. You know probably better than I do how many people younger than us are going to TikTok for their news. They're using it. It's one of the most popular apps in the world. 100 million users are in America, right? That's a lot of people. And so what TikTok is trying to do is put a face to some of those people in front of lawmakers, it seems, and say, look, these are the people who would be affected by the decisions that you make. That said, I think that the TikTok head is going to be facing some pretty tough questions come Thursday, Gadi.
And we'll be looking forward to that testimony. NBC's Hallie Jackson, thanks so much. And there is an arrest warrant out tonight for Russian President Vladimir Putin. The International Criminal Court issued the warrant earlier today, accusing him of being responsible for war crimes in Ukraine. According to the court, Putin oversaw the unlawful kidnapping and deportation of children from Ukraine to Russia. And they also say he failed to control civilian and military subordinates who committed those acts. Ukraine welcomed that decision after sounding the alarm over and over, going all the way back to the first days of the war. Russia, on the other hand, is saying they don't recognize the International Criminal Court or its jurisdiction. So is Putin actually going to face a trial? NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin has more from Kyiv.
Well, it's actually pretty unlikely that Russian President Vladimir Putin will face trial as a result of this announcement from the International Criminal Court today. And that's for a number of reasons. Currently, the ICC has no powers to arrest anyone. Russia's not a member of the ICC, which means that it's very unlikely that the Kremlin will move to extradite President Putin anytime soon. Nevertheless, the Ukrainian prosecutor general hailing this as a historic step forward, pointing to the more than 16,000 Ukrainian children it alleges has been forcibly deported to Russia. In a statement, Ukraine's prosecutor general today saying this means that Putin should be arrested and brought to court outside of Russia, and world leaders will think 3 times before shaking his hand or sitting down at the negotiating table with him. The world received a signal that the Russian regime is criminal and its leadership and henchmen will be held accountable. This announcement from the ICC came just hours after Beijing announced that the Chinese leader, President Xi, will be visiting Moscow next week. Back to you.
Erin, thank you. In France, nationwide protests have streets in chaos. Thousands have been demonstrating over the last few days. And just check out these scenes out of Paris. This is all because President Macron is pushing to raise the country's retirement age from 62 to 64. Sky News correspondent John Sparks has more.
In France, retirement is part of the national identity. And when the government changed the formula, thousands took to the streets, burning cars and pelting police in the heart of Paris. Officers responded with tear gas, water cannons and batons. La Place de la Concorde hardly living up to its name. A move by the president, Emmanuel Macron, to extend the retirement age from 62 to 64 has produced a furious reaction. And his decision to force it through Parliament has added fuel to the fire. Thousands gathered in front of the National Assembly to make their views known.
La parole est à Madame la Première ministre.
Inside, it was pandemonium. MPs were in a rowdy mood, jeering, singing, and waving signs against the government's plans. The Prime Minister, Elizabeth Bourne, fought to be heard. She announced the legislation would be enacted using extraordinary powers. The government says the reforms are essential, but the polls show the public are against them, and far-right leader Marine Le Pen may benefit.
It's an acknowledgement of total failure for Emmanuel Macron, because it's his reform. He is the one who carried it. It was even the only one he defended during the presidential campaign, so it's his personal failure.
The country has been convulsed by strikes and protests in recent days as millions tried to change the president's mind. And the unrest looks likely to intensify as opposition parties plan a vote of no confidence in the government. John Sparks, Sky News.
And still ahead, more questions over the origins of COVID, but maybe this time with an answer. We've told you how top U.S. officials have been pointing to a lab leak in Wuhan, but now a new study is linking the virus to raccoon dogs. We're going to explain. Plus, we're keeping an eye on some pretty nasty weather in the south, including tornadoes.
And my net over there.
Oh, that's your?
Yeah, that's mine. It was for over here, and it went all the way over there.
Another American is missing in Mexico. This time, the FBI is offering a $20,000 reward for information about a woman they say was kidnapped. And according to investigators, this 63-year-old was taken from her home in Colima, Mexico last month. Now, Colima is one of 6 Mexican states with an active travel warning from the United States government. Remember, 4 Americans were just kidnapped at gunpoint near the Mexico border with Texas in a case of mistaken identity, and 2 of them were killed. And right now, 3 other women from Texas are missing after crossing the border into Mexico to sell clothing. And it's not just these cases. There are hundreds of Americans missing right now in Mexico. Our colleague, Jose Diaz-Balart, talked to a mom whose son disappeared 6 years ago, and she had this plea for President Biden.
We need your intervention. We need you to make this right. We need answers. We demand it. Robert and all these that are missing in Mexico, all these Americans missing in Mexico, we need the government to stand up for them.
And NBC's Dana Griffin is with me on set. Dana, what do we know about the 63-year-old's missing, and what do we know about her case?
So Maria del Carmen Lopez, she has been missing now for 36 days. She was taken from her home in Mexico, in Colima, like you just said, and FBI officials believe that this was not drug-related. Now, her family says that they have received audio of her, or what sounds like her, asking for a ransom to be paid. It's unclear if the family has actually paid it. But, you know, the U.S. has this long-standing policy of not paying ransoms, but they will help facilitate families if they decide to do so. You also mentioned the other 3 women who are also missing in Mexico. They haven't been heard from in 2 weeks. They went over the border in Texas to try to sell clothing, but it just highlights the issue that this is happening a lot, and not all the cases are being reported.
Dana, just reading into this, I mean, the numbers are staggering. There was a Washington Post article that had the number of Americans missing in Mexico right now at 550 Americans currently missing, then 100,000 people currently missing in Mexico. Is there any chance that these cases are going to be solved? So many of them have been pending for years now.
Yeah, and that's the tough part. It's really hard to say. You mentioned the 4 Americans that were kidnapped 2 weeks ago. That one gained a lot of attention because it was caught on camera and the U.S. intervened. 2 Americans died, but we were able to get 2 of them back. But in cases like the 3 women, 2 are sisters, 1 is a friend, there's no telling. And also the woman who also spoke to Jose Diaz-Balart, there are also other families like that who have had their loved ones missing for years, Gadi. So it's a really troubling situation.
And this all comes as the relationship between Mexico and the United States seems extremely strained right now because of drug trafficking, right?
Yeah. So Mexico's president actually said today that he blamed the U.S. fentanyl crisis on families because they don't hug their kids enough. And he also falsely said that the fentanyl drug is not being produced in Mexico. Now, the U.S. has called for these drug gangs to be classified as terrorist organizations. And also, the U.S. is really trying to put the pressure on Mexico to deal with this. Now, Mexico, the president there, has said that both countries should ban the medical use of fentanyl. But the issue with that is a lot of that medical-grade fentanyl doesn't make it into the illegal market. So it's a really tough conversation, and both countries are at odds when it comes to this issue.
Especially with bizarre statements like that from the president of Mexico.
We don't hug our kids enough.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Dana Griffin, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And there is new evidence linking the origin of COVID to that market in Wuhan, China. Virus experts say they found genetic data that ties the transmission to humans to raccoon dogs that were for sale at that market as part of a black market animal trade. Raccoon dogs are small animals that are kind of like foxes with a raccoonish face. They're bred and sold in China for meat and fur, and they're also known to be able to catch and spread viruses to other animals by direct contact. And with us now is Dr. Jeffrey Klausner, professor of medicine and infectious diseases at USC's Keck School of Medicine. Dr. Klausner, we've been looking at COVID at the genetic level now for quite some time. How is this coming to light right now?
Yeah, it's actually been reported several times over the past couple of years that the genetic sequence of the COVID virus that has caused over 1 million deaths in the United States, that same sequence has been found in a variety of different animals in the Wuhan area, animals that typically would be bought and sold in these wet markets, things like pangolins, civets, raccoon dogs. So for people who've been following this, it's actually not a surprise that this week they found evidence of the virus and DNA from these raccoon dogs in the market. And that was really the discovery that in the same place in the market, you had both the virus and the DNA of the dogs that makes it, really a smoking gun that this was probably what we call a natural spillover event.
So it wasn't necessarily in the genetic code. It was the fact that there were raccoon dogs in this market and they weren't able to identify those raccoon dogs in the market before because of the black market nature of it. Is that right?
Well, early on in January 2020, so within about a week, that market was entirely closed down and everything in that market was, taken away. So there were actually no animals or, vegetables or seafood or anything else available for people to test. But people have been going to the market as early as 2014 because we've known for a long time that these wet markets are typical places where you may see spillover or jumping from animals into humans. Humans are in close contact with a variety of animals in these settings. When we know SARS-CoV-2, the reservoir where it really lives in nature are in bats, but humans don't come into bats contact, fortunately, very often. So it's these intermediate animals. So the bat infects the animal infects the humans, and then humans spread it to other people.
And all of that happening so close to the lab there. How do you think this new evidence is going to impact the lab leak theory?
Well, I mean, one reason why labs are in that area is because of the, wet markets and the potential emergence. So there are actually these types of virology labs all through China, all through the world, in places where there may be spillover events. And that's why the labs are there, because it's easy access to animals, easy access to specimens, and they can have the facilities there to do the testing. So it's not a surprise that there's actually a coincidence of a lab in the same place as wet markets as spillover.
Did China cooperate with this, or did they help conduct this investigation at all?
Well, it's interesting. So the genetic sequences, the data that were released about 4 or 5 days ago came from Chinese scientists. And as soon as a French scientist discovered it, just happenstance, going through some databases on the internet, about a day later, those sequences were taken down by those same Chinese scientists. So there still remains a little bit of mystery why the genetic sequences were up, why they came down. But it looks like there will be some ongoing communication and collaboration.
Dr. Klausner, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And coming up, a Southern California community is dealing with a massive sinkhole again. This thing is 30 feet deep. Plus, Taylor Swift's Era Tour kicks off tonight in Glendale, Arizona. And for fans, it's going to be better than their wildest dreams, because it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. It looks like a Swiftie producer named Christina might have hijacked the prompter. Look what you made me do, Christina. We remember all too well how frustrating it was to get tickets for her Eras Tour. Glendale was so excited to be the first stop that it temporarily changed its name to Swift City. That is a true story. And if you didn't get tickets, don't blame me, but hopefully you can shake it off. Okay, no more, Christina. And real quick, before we go, you got to see this. Chicago isn't the only city turning water green this St. Patrick's Day. Take a look at Tampa Bay. Now they are ready to party there. We'll be right back. time now for some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. Actor Lance Reddick died suddenly today from natural causes. The Baltimore native was best known for his roles in The Wire and John Wick. He was 60 years old. Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes returned to court today. She is asking to stay out of prison while her lawyers appeal her conviction. Holmes was the mastermind behind a failed blood testing company and has already been sentenced to 11 years for fraud and conspiracy. She recently gave birth to her second child, which is part of her plea to remain free. In Virginia, 3 former psychiatric hospital employees are facing murder charges for the death of Irvo Otieno. The 28-year-old black man died from asphyxiation while being admitted to the facility earlier this month. 7 sheriff's deputies have also been charged in his murder. And the Florida Board of Medicine just issued a rule that would ban minors from starting hormone therapy. This makes Florida the 8th state to restrict transgender care for minors. A group of parents in the state are now planning on challenging this in court. And check out this insane video. A sinkhole in La Habra, California, caved in this week for the second time. It's located just southeast of LA and was first opened up 4 years ago. It's been fenced off ever since, but the nonstop rain lately caused the sinkhole to collapse even further. And there are some strong storms rolling through the south, and they are leaving a ton of damage and destruction in their wake. Powerful winds in Garland, Texas, snapped trees and destroyed all kinds of property there. One person said the wind blew off their garage door, and that was just the start. Take a listen.
A loud boom, bam, as soon as I told him that. And so put everybody in the closet.
I just heard a lot of wind. I just heard a big bang on the back. It was very loud.
Now, the National Weather Service has confirmed an F1 tornado touchdown in Irving, just outside of Dallas. Those kinds of tornadoes packed winds as fast as 110 miles an hour. And joining us now is NBC News meteorologist Angie Lastman with the forecast. Angie, it looks like some strong storms rolling through the southeast. What are you watching tonight?
Yeah, and you know, this is the same storm system that dumped tons of rain on California, has just marched across the country, Gadi, over the past couple of days. And it is not done just yet. We're still keeping a close eye on parts of the southeast. We've got rain draped across the mid-Atlantic and into the northeast. But this is the area that we're keeping a close eye on for strong to even severe storms. We've seen a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. We've seen a tornado warning earlier for parts of Alabama. No reports of tornadoes just yet. But really, the ingredients are all there as this line of really strong storms with a whole lot of lightning and heavy rain continues moving east, mainly focused into parts of the Florida Panhandle. We see some of that activity also in Alabama, the southeastern areas of Alabama, and into Georgia. A bad commute and into the evening hours. We'll still see some difficulty for Atlanta. We've got a whole lot of rain associated with this that it likely will cause some flooding issues. But as we get through the rest of the evening, we'll still keep some of that in place for the potential to see some of these stronger storms. Wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour, hail up to an inch, and we'll also not rule out completely the potential for an isolated tornado or two. We see the rainfall amounts coming in widespread, about a half an inch. This goes up into the Carolinas and into part of the mid-Atlantic area, but we'll see those higher amounts in places like Tallahassee, Jacksonville, as we get into specifically Saturday, because that cold front, it gets stuck, kind of hangs out into the northern portions of the Florida Peninsula, and that means that the rain and unsettled weather sticks around for us here as we get into those early parts of your Saturday plans for folks in Florida, Gadi.
And Angie, what's this weekend looking like for the rest of us?
Yeah, it depends on where you are. We're going to see another storm system for California, but let's take a look at some of these freeze alerts that we have up for parts of the south. Oof. These are the areas where we could have a little difficulty with those early spring blooms because temperatures are going to be below freezing, and these are already in place for early morning hours tomorrow. 27 million people included in that. As far as the rest of the country, we've got some chilly air in place a little farther to the north for parts of the Midwest and the Northeast, and we're also going to see some strong winds coming off those lakes. That means lake effect snow. We could see several inches in the UP of Michigan. Meanwhile, out west, it's dry for tomorrow, but that doesn't last long. We see our next storm system working in, and it means more rain, more snow for California and much of the West Coast. Meanwhile, the chilly air sticks in place for parts of the Northeast, and down in the south, we'll get a little bit of sunshine, and some cool conditions will stick around for the end of the weekend, Gadi.
I don't mind seeing a little bit of green on the map, but the purples, the reds, the yellows, not today. NBC's Angie Lastman, thanks so much. Happy St. Patrick's Day. This week was packed with news that had a lot of people talking, including flooding in Sedona, Arizona, a train derailment in Washington spilling 5,000 gallons of diesel, and the restoration of the Notre Dame Cathedral. But there are still a lot more stories that have been trending like crazy on social media, which is where we also help deliver the news on our Stay Tuned Snapchat side hustle. That's along with my very good friend Savannah Sellers and the one and only Maya Eaglin. And Maya's here to tell us about the top trending stories. Maya, a zebra attack? That actually happened?
That actually happened in Ohio, Gadi. So a zebra bit this guy's arm, and we actually have some body cam footage that shows the zebra near the ambulance when people started coming to the scene. Officials say the animal was very aggressive, and they tried to scare it away so it would leave, but ultimately decided they need to shoot and kill it to protect the safety of the people around. The good news here is that man is recovering and is expected to do okay.
And Maya, we've also got a story about a missing teenage girl from Texas that she was found all the way in North Carolina. What happened there?
Yeah, this one is just insane. So she was 13 years old and actually met the guy who is the suspect here online talking to her. He eventually spoke to her and created such a close relationship that he got her to come out of her house, took her to North Carolina, and kept her in a shed where he was living in. The owner of that home said he was just her son's friend and had no idea that any of this was going on. The suspect's now facing charges of child abduction, rape, and human trafficking. Good news here is the girl is back in Texas. Gadi?
Wow, thank goodness. And another story that had a lot of people talking. Buffalo Wild Wings, they're not buffalo, they're not wild, they're not even wings. What was going on there?
Yeah, people were going crazy in the comments on TikTok for this one. So basically, there's a class action lawsuit from a man in Chicago. He's arguing that the boneless wings are false advertising. He says the boneless wings are really just chicken nuggets and not chicken wings with the bone removed. So Buffalo Wild Wings actually clapped back and tweeted that their boneless wings are all white chicken, but their hamburgers have no ham and their buffalo wings have no buffalo. So they're like, you know what? It's kind of all around.
Yeah, I mean, false advertising. I think they would have gone for the buffalo stuff, but guess not. Maya England, thanks so much. In a graveyard of vacant cubicles, the pandemic emptied businesses and districts all across cities all over the country. And now some of those open floor plans are turning into apartments. NBC's Sinkhole has the story.
Gary Cohen's grandfather bought this D.C. office building nearly 60 years ago.
This was the first high-rise office building in this part of town.
Soon, it will make history as the first high-rise multifamily residential building in Washington's business district.
The office market wasn't that great even before COVID, but then when COVID happened, it pretty much died.
Cohen is chairman of D.C. area developer Wilco and owner of the building, soon to be known as L Apartments. It's one of 5 office-to-residential conversions happening in Washington, D.C.'s Golden Triangle, marking a growing trend in cities nationwide. Today, office attendance is less than half of what it was pre-pandemic in some of the largest metro areas, struggling to lure workers back in person.
Neighborhoods where people live have been a lot more resilient than neighborhoods that have only one use.
Leona Agaritas is executive director of the Golden Triangle Business Improvement District in Washington, D.C. She says building vacancy in the area is at 22%, a historic high.
The Golden Triangle includes 34 million square feet of office space and only 36 residential units.
Agaritas says with remote work here to stay, cities need new revenue streams, like Cohen's project. After a 3-year vacancy, the building will have 163 residential units.
This is a unit right here.
And 8,000 square feet of retail. An endeavor catching the eye of D.C.'s mayor.
We encourage more property owners to follow their lead.
Mayor Muriel Bowser announcing plans for an abatement program in December, intended to incentivize office-to-apartment building conversions, address the affordable housing crisis, and revitalize the business district. Still, office-to-apartment conversions are no silver bullet.
What are some of the challenges of converting an office building into an apartment space?
It's endless. New plumbing, new electrical, new mechanical. So you're doing a lot of core drilling. It's about a $65 million job.
But Cohen says the costs are worth it.
What do you think your grandfather would make of what this building's becoming today?
I think it's kind of interesting. It's come full circle.
The building likely ready in 2024 as how we work continues to affect where we live. Sinkhole, NBC News, Washington, D.C.
Today in Philadelphia, the FBI returned dozens of early American guns that were stolen from museums and historic societies from all across the country. Authorities say the artifacts were discovered in the home of a Delaware man. Tim Furlong from NBC affiliate WCAU has more.
On a dreary day outside the Museum of the American Revolution, a celebration indoors. Museums and historical societies from Massachusetts to Mississippi and lots here in our area finally getting their historic weapons and artifacts back after they were stolen more than 50 years ago.
These are American cultural heritage items going back to American institutions today.
Multiple law enforcement agencies reopened these museum theft cases back in 2009 after receiving anonymous tips and have been working together ever since. They indicted and got a guilty plea from Michael Corbett of Delaware. He's now serving a 3-year home confinement sentence for possessing the historic firearms.
Yet they have been taken simply to be possessed, not to be sold, not to be displayed, just to be had.
The U.S. Attorney's Office says due to statute of limitations issues, they didn't charge Corbett with actually stealing the items, but they learned a lot during their investigation.
We know at least at Belchertown, 2 months before the theft at Belchertown, he had signed into the visitor log. That's a coincidence. If you're a believer in coincidences, I'll leave it at that.
Pretty odd to see the Delaware County Historical Society folks walking out with their items that haven't been in their custody for decades. Some of the organizations here didn't even know they had ever had anything stolen until investigators told them. All the items, many used during the Revolution and Civil Wars, now going back to the places they belong that now have much better security systems in place.
This isn't going to happen again. So if anybody's got any ideas about this or watch the Thomas Crown affair or anything like that, don't try it.
In Old City, Tim Furlong, NBC 10 News.
And up next, the future of everything. Tonight, we are talking dating. I just Googled some pickup lines. They'll probably make you cringe, or maybe not, like this one. Do you have a name, or can I call you mine? Or if I could rearrange the alphabet, I'd put you and I together. So is using Google any different than using AI? We're going to put ChatGPT to the test and talk about whether this is getting way too weird. So stay tuned. And you're going to see that our Future of Everything segments focus a lot on space and all the things up there, like the billions and billions of asteroids. And in fact, NASA is tracking 5 asteroids passing by Earth this weekend, one which is the size of a house past us, this time at a distance closer than the moon. The largest of the bunch is the length of a building. Luckily, NASA says none of these are a cause for concern. But what if they were? Last year, NASA ran a bunch of exercises to see how the U.S. would respond to a real threat from an asteroid, and today we got an update on that mission.
DART showed that we do have technology for diverting an asteroid in space, but there is still a lot left to be done. Options for deflecting an asteroid or doing anything about an asteroid really depend on the asteroid, on its size, on its composition, but crucially on the amount of time before the impact. They have to be discovered early in order to be able to do something about them.
It looks a lot different than Don't Look Up, but that's a very good thing. Another topic we promise to stay on top of is the quickly evolving world of artificial intelligence. And ChatGPT-4 is the chatbot software everyone is talking about right now. San Francisco startup OpenAI released the new software earlier this week, and now America's biggest tech companies are experimenting with their own versions. Microsoft says it's testing an AI co-pilot which works with documents, Excel spreadsheets, and Outlook. Meanwhile, Google parent company Alphabet announced its own AI features for Gmail called Magic Wand, and investors apparently are starting to like what they're seeing. Share prices for both companies saw gains to end the week. And every day, it seems like we're talking with something to do about ChatGPT and what ChatGPT can accomplish or eventually will be able to do. But what happens when you start using ChatGPT to set up an online dating profile? Well, that's what some people are doing, using software to talk to Tinder matches, and that's raising all kinds of questions. Dating can be difficult, and trying to navigate the world of dating apps can be even harder. But what happens when you use ChatGPT to land that first date? Anthony Ria, a 29-year-old software engineer, set up an AI model to talk to matches on Tinder and ask ChatGPT for some pickup lines. He shared some of those responses in a YouTube video.
If you could be any animal, what will you be? I will be a sloth because they get to sleep a lot and they're really cute. It was mostly cheesy stuff, right? But it was better than the usual hi, hello, like the boring stuff.
Cringy or not, Anthony says it worked. The AI model was able to talk to 70 matches. Even one of the conversations led to a woman asking him out.
She ended up asking for a date, so I had to stop everything. It wasn't fair at all.
And this past Valentine's Day, the New York Times used ChatGPT to make a Valentine generator. All right, we're going to give this a try and see what AI knows about romance here. Write a romantic Valentine to your partner in the style of a Taylor Swift song. Let's see. ChatGPT, do your thing. My love for you is so immense, a match made in heaven, no need to fence. Loving you is the right intent, a lifetime of joy is what I meant. I don't know. My beating heart will always be true. My love for you is real. This I'll never conceal. She's not going for that, right? Dr. Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist and chief science advisor to the internet dating site Match.com, thinks this isn't all that revolutionary.
I really don't see this new development of having these bots help you with some initial sentences to catch somebody's attention as really terribly unusual. It's a tool, and you're not going to use that tool for very long. You meet the person in person, and you're going to be who you are no matter how you presented yourself.
But not everyone feels that way. A recent OkCupid survey found that roughly 7 in 10 users feel that using AI to message people or create a profile is dishonest. So is AI going to play a big role in fostering relationships in the not-so-distant future? Time will tell, but for now, it looks like it can pretend to be human. The question now is, what's next? And to talk more about this, I'm joined by Dr. Shomir Wilson, the Director of Human Language Technologies at Penn State University. Professor, thanks so much for joining us. First off, I really want to get into a philosophical talk here. These robots, they seem to know a lot about us, a lot about what makes us feel good, what makes us feel appreciated. So that makes me wonder, what's stopping them from manipulating us?
Might be very little is stopping them. It depends on how we're using them, really, because they're tools. They don't necessarily know what we're doing with them, and some things that you might do with them might be innocent in some ways, and the same things you ask them for might be a problem in other ways. So if you ask them to give you pickup lines, you might be writing a romance novel, or you might be trying to use Tinder, and there's an ethical difference between those things.
And in terms of these language models, they know to feed you back something that you're most likely going to respond to in a positive way, right? How does that happen?
That happens because they're trained on a huge amount of text from the internet. So they were trained on text gained from various websites, lots of different places online, and they know likely sequences of words and likely conversations that will happen, or know in a sense of probability. They don't really think in the sense that we do, but they know how to string together language in sequences that are likely to work.
And they're always there to answer your questions, always there to lend an ear to. I mean, when it comes to the ethical concerns, what's to stop humans from falling in love with AI like the movie Her?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess the main thing that's stopping us is honesty. So if folks are using these, it's a question of does the person on the other side know that they're talking to an AI and not talking to a person? And if a person is being deceptive with this, then that's a problem, I guess, for relationships down the road. And so that's one barrier, but in the context of someplace like Tinder or dating sites where you're communicating via text, there's not much that we can do at the moment. I guess down the road, if folks meet in person, that makes a difference. You can't have ChatGPT show up to the bar, but if you're just communicating with messages, there's not so much we can do at the moment.
Okay, Professor, I know you deal with a lot of students who are studying AI, who are interfacing with this. Here's a hypothetical question. What would you do if a student came to you and said, hey, the chat GPT interface that I'm communicating with is sentient, and I have a relationship with them, and I really think that they are alive? What would you tell them?
I think I'd have to tell them that that's personal territory that I, as a faculty member, can't really talk much with them about. But I'd be willing to have more general philosophical conversations with them about the nature of this technology and what it's capable of, ethical implications of us interacting with it and using it. I think those topics are fair game, though. So I'd see what they think, and that's often what I have to do as a faculty member, to see what young people are thinking about technologies as they emerge.
Last question. From everything that you've seen so far with this tech, with your students, with the world around us, you think it's going to get weirder pretty quick here?
It's gotten weird pretty quickly over the past few years. Working in natural language processing, we've seen some big innovations. So it depends on your definition of weird. I think we are seeing a greater awareness of large language models than we ever have before. So I think it's both exciting and terrifying at the same time. Just depends on how you look at it.
I'm going to ask ChatGPT for the definition of weird. Dr. Wilson, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And when we come back, a former gym teacher turned fitness instructor. But get this, she is 93 years young. And no surprise, Betty's class is the most popular one at her assisted living community.
I see improvement. One of them come to me and said, I'm shocked I can do that now, you know. So it's exciting just to see they enjoy it, so I enjoy it.
And happy St. Patrick's Day, which for a lot of people means it's time to go grab a green beer and party, but not if you're at Binge Bar in D.C. tonight. I don't know what they're binging there, because the alcohol-free establishment still serves up drinks. They're just margaritas and mojitos without the spirits. Our Gary Grumbach took a look at this growing trend for the sober curious among us.
Gigi Arandid hasn't always been sober.
I was having trouble with, afflictions, people, places, and things, relationship that just wasn't working out. So my drinking became uncontrollable, and I became a binge drinker. And then one time I had a DUI, and I was introduced to the AA rooms in order to clear my record.
It was this incident that turned one of the darkest times in Gigi's life into one of the brightest. She founded Binge Bar, Washington, D.C.'s first bar with an entirely non-alcoholic menu.
When they come into a place like this and they see people playing board games, drinking, non-alcoholic beer or non-alcoholic wine, it's like, it's more than just a Band-Aid, or it's more than just a temporary fix.
Gigi views her bar as a place not just for those in recovery, but for those who may just want to spend the night out with friends without feeling it the next day.
I created sangria. I created a pineapple smash. I created a drink that was like a cherry bomb spritzer.
Binge Bar is just the latest addition to a growing trend. According to a 2022 report, non-alcoholic drink sales in the U.S. grew 20% from the previous year, driven mostly by Gen Z and millennials.
It's great to have a place where you can come, have an experience, but if you're not looking to drink, you can have a nice time out without the negative effects of it.
It's healthier on my body and my pockets.
Lauren Chitwood co-founded Spiritless in 2020 and has seen success in Louisville, a city known for its bourbon. But it hasn't gone down easy for everyone.
Oh my goodness, all the good old boys did not know what to do with us. And they all kind of scratched their head at us and they said, Lauren, I drink for effect. I don't know what you're doing here.
Chitwood says the growing popularity of non-alcoholic spirits is proof this trend is worth the bar tab.
A shot of bourbon whiskey, again, no alcohol.
Back at Binge Bar, I couldn't leave without trying some for myself.
Tastes like an old-fashioned.
Gary Grumbach, NBC News, Washington.
I hope they're a little bit cheaper. Before your weekend can begin, we've got a very special extra, special 60 seconds of joy. We're going to introduce you to Betty, who is not letting her age or her legal blindness get in the way of her fitness.
Very good with us. Gets us moving.
Betty Statler went from being a participant in Tanglewood Terrace's exercise classes to teaching them. And directors at the assisted living community say her class is the most popular one.
For everybody exercising, it's just nice to see somebody in your own age group and say, if she can do it, I can too.
Being 93 years old, Betty has back problems and is legally blind, but that doesn't stop her.
And I go to the doctor and she says, well, Betty, the only thing that you can do is exercise. So now I'm sticking with it. I'm still doing it.
10 years later, and while she may have started the classes for herself, Betty says it's the enjoyment of the other residents that makes her the happiest.
I see improvement. One of them come to me and said, I'm shocked. I can do that now, you know. So it's exciting just to see they enjoy it, so I enjoy it.
And we enjoy it too. Betty, keep it up. That does it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We're going to see you next week. But until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.